It is 4:32 on Thursday, September 26th, 2024. And I call this meeting in the Meridian Historic Preservation Commission order. Roll call. Blaine Johnston's here. Patrick Giddings.
Here.
Pam J. Gosh. Ken Freeze.
Here.
Jack Keller. Deborah Pitts.
Here.
Heather Giacomo.
Here.
Oh, thank you, Heather. Approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda for this meeting.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Freeze, seconded by Commissioner Giddings for approval of the, or adoption of the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Approval of minutes from our August 22nd meeting.
Mr. Chair, so moved.
I second that.
Motion by Commissioner Giddings, seconded by Commissioner Freeze for approval of minutes of August 22nd. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, thank you. Approval of our monthly financial statements. Ms. Schiffler, did we get cherry paid?
Yes, I think the most recent statement that I posted includes the bronze plaque, which got ordered. Haven't received it yet, but made the payment reimbursement to Mr. Johnson for the Pass Forward Conference, and anticipate the final payment of $1,400 for Sherry, our consultant, and $600 for the walking tour brochures, which have been printed and I think you have in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So from our yearly budget, how much did we spend? Can you tell us real quick?
11,454 plus 509 plus 665 plus 1,400 plus 600. Give me a minute and I can total that.
Majority of our budget.
$14,029. So out of a $15,000 budget.
Thank you. Motion?
Is there any, well, I'll make the motion, but is there anything else outstanding that needs to be paid out of this budget?
So that includes the outstanding things.
Okay.
I've got a question also. If any unspent money, is that carried over or is it lost? Okay,
Money is not carried forward.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the financial statement.
I second that.
Motion by Commissioner Giddings, second by Commissioner Freeze for approval of our monthly financials. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries, thank you. New business. There was an application that's coming for the city for development on property near Black Cat in McMillan. I went out there the other day, took some photos. There's just some metal silos out there now. There's an old, looks like hay barn that's out there that's got some good wood beams in it. But architecturally, I don't think it's much of anything. There's a nice little Tudor style homes on the property. I don't have all the historic data on it. I don't know who originally built it or anything like that. I would like to get some more if possible. But I don't know where to find that information, so I got some research to do on that. Do you have those pictures by chance?
You had emailed them to me, but I don't have, I could bring them up, but it'd take me just a minute.
Is there a specific address for this property?
It's on the southeast corner of McMillan and Black Cat. I don't have the exact street address.
Okay.
So, yeah, at this point, I don't know that we need to spend money on a professional photographer. I think we've got stuff documented unless we can find out some more historic information on the property. If it's old builds, which I'm guessing the farmhouse is probably guessing maybe mid-50s, maybe a little bit earlier than that. The brickwork is neat. Like I said, it's kind of a Tudor style home. But wasn't able to go on the inside to get any photos that way. So unless we get some more historical information on it, I don't know that we need to proceed on that at this point. I think it's just in the pre-app stage now. But that's all the information I have. I can, well, I think Sandra, if you can just email those photos or a couple of those photos that I sent to you to the commission so they know, at least look at it and see. Oh.
If it's just if we would like to get some photos, I mean, I'd be happy to go out there and take some photos of the area to cover it without, without any expense.
I guess would be up to you. Like I said, if there's the silos, the hay barn in the back. So they're not like the silos at Eggers Farm. It's a cast concrete silo, just metal silos, and then the farmhouse. But if you would like to go out and take some pictures, I believe we still have permission to go out and take some pictures.
You know if anybody's living in the house?
I don't believe so. I know there are some cars parked in one of the outbuildings
Okay.
and stuff like that, but I don't know if anybody's living in the house itself.
Okay. Well, I'll see about going out there in the next week or so.
Here's inside of that hay barn loft. Yeah, the only reason I know it's Tudor style is that entry, that one slope on the roof over the front door on the left-hand side extends out further than the one on the right. And that's a typical Tudor detail. Even though it's all brick and there's no stucco, that's a Tudor detail.
I can't bring up any information as to
Yeah.
construction of the building. Usually Zillow or Redfin will have a construction date, but there's,
As old as that is, it's not going to have any.
yeah.
And Ada County Assessor only goes back 20 years. And that's just a little example of the brick it was constructed with. I think it's called the clinker style because they used offset different sizes of brick to form the wall.
I think that was all the photos.
Yep, that's it. So yes, Commissioner Freeze, if you'd like to go out and take some additional photos, I don't have an objection to that.
Yeah, I figure it won't hurt to have some photos,
Right.
so.
Yeah, whatever you get, just go ahead and send to Ms. Schiffler. Then I think we've got a repository somewhere for all of our digital photos, hopefully.
Yeah.
that we can,
There are photos here and there. When you were, this is a good question about like how they should be stored or where they should be stored or how to use them that maybe the commission wants to think about. I don't know, or like have them publicly accessible or maybe, I don't know.
tell you what, let's make that a topic for our October meeting is where we want to store digital photos. Because I know there's photos that were taken, like I said, a barn, because we did a calendar a couple years ago. I don't know where those photos are at. But yeah, we should have a place that we could store them. I don't have a problem with have them being accessed off the city's website, if that's okay. Mr. Neri, if we take photographs of historic properties, I'm using that term loosely, and they're removed for whatever reason, can we put them on this HPC or city's website for people to look at? Is there a problem with that or an issue with that?
No, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I mean, certainly as long as they have permission to be on the site to take the pictures, the pictures then belong to the person who takes them if they're going to give them to the city to put on a website. There's no issue.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, let's do that as a discussion for next month. That's where we want to put photos.
Okay, and as a, just from a logistic standpoint, like how to organize and present them, would want some direction on that. Is there, and you had mentioned the barn calendar photos, but I was only able to find a couple, so I'm not sure if they're where they were stored or somewhere else.
And I don't even remember who took them. I'd have to go back through old notes from past meetings if I remember who took them for sure. So,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd add on to that, that the way we curate those photos and what metadata we collect from about those photos will play a role in how future generations would be able to look back at that.
mhm.
So we need to, maybe, as you're pointing out, we need to talk about this and decide what kind of information we could try and collect when
Mhm.
we can collect it, and then how we curate that.
Okay,
Yeah, as I've done historical research, different places around the country, usually it's some library entity that is storing these. It might be a city, state, county, but usually there's some sort of library involved with the storage of the photos. And some of these places I've looked at, they've got photos going back to the 1800s, were taken with glass plates. So I'm sure there's a lot of photos around of Meridian, and it'd be nice to, we could somehow come up with a way that they were all in one place and accessible.
okay. Good topic for next month. We'll go on to old business, recap and planning of walking tours for next year. So I just did, I think gonna be the last tour this past Saturday. We had 10 residents going that tour, including former Mayor Tammy and her husband. I think everybody enjoyed it. We started off here, walked down Meridian Road over to Pine Tree School, talked about the Neal House, then back down State, looked at some of the homes on State, Tolith home, back down to Idaho and East Idaho building. So, yeah, I think we had good success this year. I don't know how many people we had total. I know we had 10. Saturday, I think we had 14 in August.
When I did it, we had, I think, about 14.
Yeah,
There was 5 in July.
5 in July. The heat probably hurt us in July. And I don't remember how many we had in May.
Did we do one in May?
Did we do it, May? No, maybe that was just our preliminary tour, that was just for us, so. But I think from comments that I heard from everybody enjoyed it. Had a really good time, so. So that gave us 3 tours this year. Something to think about. Do we want to just do the same? Do we want to try to expand it for more next year? Do May,
Well-
June, July, August, September? Give us 5?
I had just my initial thought, Mr. Chair, was to do one in May and June and skip July and August because they're the hottest months, and then do one in September and one in October.
So there was one in May,
Yeah.
Reservation Month.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, well,
In October, you'll miss the market because the market closes, I think, the first or second week.
Yeah, so maybe September's just a good time for us to have our last one. Because I think a lot of people do come down for that market.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
they hear about the tour, but they come down to the market, do that, or do the tour and then do the market. So it's a good tie-in with us to do it while the market's here. So we could preliminary plan for next year, May, June, and then August, September.
Sounds good.
And then as we get close, we can start looking at dates to do that again. Yeah, I gave out challenge coins last month and this month. I don't think you didn't give me out when you did the tours, so I didn't. So next year, we'll make sure that whoever leads the tours has those challenge coins. 'Cause everybody appreciated getting those when they got done.
I don't think any of our tours this year, we did any of the North Main Street.
No,
We might want to, at least when we get further along into the planning, think about, where we're going to go, what we're going to incorporate, so we cover everything.
mhm.
But covering everything in one tour seems to be a bit much for us.
Yeah, I think if we split it in half, and maybe that's what we do is we'll do a north tour 1 month. And then we'll do the south tour another month, and we'll have to
There you go.
explain that when we advertise it next year.
Yeah.
So,
And Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I know this came up at a meeting, I wasn't here, but we're asking about getting it in the utility billing sort of cycle. And so we need to plan a long time ahead for the utility billing sort of thing. So I think I'd probably need to, if we want to advertise in the spring, I probably need to know in January about what the dates are and what information you'd want to put in that.
Mr. Chair, I did notice, it seemed like this last one, we had more social media presence. And so I think that might be helpful. And another thing that we could do to help spread the word is to try and do, as much as we possibly can on social media.
I agree. I think we need to reach out to Preservation Idaho, because they do a lot of advertising in
Right.
Boise's. But if they could help us out, I think it would help us out also.
Mhm. And I didn't know if there was an opportunity for us to do it, but reaching out to West Ada School District too. Letting them know that there's going to be tours. So that maybe some of the classes, I don't know, I haven't thought that completely through, but maybe there's some school classes that would be interested in doing tours. I wouldn't be against doing specific tours for school classes, even if it was outside of our normal schedule, if we could communicate with the school district and, get plugged in with their history.
I'm trying to think, and this was a comment we had from Pine Tree School when we were there, because MDC used to, pre-COVID, give money to West Ada for a field trip. They have stopped doing that, and I don't know exactly why, but I need to reach out to MDC and say, what would it take for you guys to do this again? I think it was I think they told me $10,000 is what they gave the school district for these field trips, for the bus and stuff like that.
Who's NBC?
Meridian Development Corporation, they're
and-
the downtown people.
Oh, okay.
So I need to reach out to them to see if they can do that, because they need to plan on, okay, how are we going to get the kids from their schools to meet us down here. So it's busing and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's some logistics that the school district would have to do. And like they said, they're limited on how many field trips the school district can afford to give the kids. So if we could find a supplemental income for them to do that, it gives the kids another field trip. But originally, when that was set up, when we first started our walking tour, we figured, well, if we can get the kids to come down and do a walking tour and they go home and talk to their parents about it,
Right.
it brings parents down to start looking at the tour. They're downtown, they shop, they go to a restaurant, so it brings income down for those people downtown also.
Another outreach we could think about is maybe doing an outreach to like BSU's history department or CWI's history
Mhm.
department. I just think that the more outreach we do, the better off the better results we'd have for our tours.
Okay, and then let's do this. Let's think about dates next year we want to do it. So then in January, we can set those dates so that Ms. Shifter can get that information out onto the city's utility billing. I'll reach out and try and get a hold of MDC to see if they can possibly help financially with the schools to get at least I think it's the third graders to do the Idaho history. At least maybe get some of them down here to do that. And it may be one of those, okay, we have to have some of these schools, we may have to do 2 or 3 field trips during the middle of the week for the school kids to get down there during the day. So, but we've got some planning before next year, so I'll reach out and see what I can find. Any other discussion on our walking tours? With that, we'll go on to project updates. Meridian Speedway just received the Ada County Treasurers Award. Ms. Schiffer, do we have a date yet for that? No, we don't.
Unfortunately, I wish I had a more than like a really tentative date, which was October 26th. I've seen multiple emails out, but we're not getting much of a response from Dairy Board and Speedway on any date confirmation.
Okay. And you mentioned that we've purchased the plaque, but we don't have a delivery date for the plaque yet, correct?
It will be here by October 26th.
Okay. So if by chance we have me or get together on 26, we'll have the plaque that we can present. So it may not be installed, and we may have to come back and Mr. Neri, once we have the plaque, and I know we have to still do some talking with the Dairy Board and Speedway and where it goes specifically, how do we go about getting the plaque installed? Is that something the city could do for us, or do we have to have the Speedway do it, or?
Mr. President, members of the commission, I think we'd have to have the Speedway do it.
Okay.
Since it's on their property.
Okay. That answers that question. Okay, landmarking program memo. So I'm going to let you handle this first part of this, Ms. Schiffler.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, so I do have an update on the landmarking program. So I met with some city staff and the mayor this week to go over the program and the idea, and the mayor's generally open to the idea, but isn't ready to put that memo forward to council until there's really clear recommendations on some of the following things. What the overall goals of the program would be, what's the outcome and the why we would do this, which exactly the properties would be, and how eligibility would be determined, which I know is part of the next steps. So that's something that HPC would need to work on. And what the process to get a property on the landmarking program would be. Would it be opt-in? Would people recommend it? Like how would they get on there? How exactly it would affect the property owner? How it would be designated with a plaque or a sign? What specific activities would trigger the Historic Preservation Commission review? Like if they're remodeling their bathroom or doing interior things or zoning changes or land use or demolitions. And then what kinds of recommendations that HPC would give, an assessment of what staff time and resources would need to be achieved, what would be needed to achieve the program, what private property owners would get out of it, and what the public would get out of the program, so the private benefit and the public benefit. It was also kind of talked about that there shouldn't be any HPC regulatory requirements, as this isn't a regulatory commission, and advised that the process should not impede development timelines or slow up the development or redevelopment process, and advised for the process to follow existing public process timelines for development. So that means if something is 30 days in order for HPC to review it, maybe they would need to meet like once a week with a special meeting to be able to do that. So lots of things to think about.
With that, Ms. Schiffler handed out beforehand a SHPO sites inventory that lists, I think she said 129 properties in Meridian that are eligible for listing. That's a lot of properties for us to go through to begin with. I think if we can break this list down with just those eligible properties, if we concentrate on what's Old Town, downtown to begin with, I think that's gonna be a first step to say, okay, let's look at these properties. There may or may not be photographs of them, I don't know. But at least photograph them to begin with. Some are listed on the National Registry already. Mountain States Telegraph Building, the Neal House, E.F. Hunt House, the Tolith House. These are already listed, but there's some other in here that we probably need to look at and verify, okay, yes, this is downtown. Is this the first area we want to try and look at for a landmarking program? I kind of go back and forth on this. I think probably the first step would be is if we look at some of these homes, buildings, I want the public buy-in. I want them to agree with what we're trying to do. So it may be a voluntary basis for those property owners to say, yeah, I would like to have the city landmark this program or this house to begin with. If they buy in on it, then it may be just an education process for us to say, okay, you have a house that's eligible for listing. These are some things you should or shouldn't do to the home to keep it still eligible. And it may just be something we do in May during Preservation Month is have an educational class for these homeowners. And like I said, I'm just throwing ideas out there, nothing for sure, but we do have some more work to do as far as commission to move forward on this. How do we want to designate it? Because they're just because they're eligible, as the list goes, doesn't mean they want to go through with that nomination. But would they accept City Meridian landmark, historic property? Would they be agreeable to that? Do we want to just have it on our app and on our walking tour that this is a historic property? Do we want to provide signage of some kind to put up in front of the properties? Some things that we need to discuss. So as I'm thinking out loud a lot of times, if you guys can think of anything, just raise your hand, let me know what you guys are thinking. Like I said, we've made a good first step at this, but we do have some more work that we need to do to move forward with it.
Mr. President, I think you have a lot of good ideas. A lot of good ideas. I think maybe you mentioned about what people can do to make keep their property eligible, either do this or don't do that sort of things. I think if we could outline some of those things and then maybe send some letters directly to the property owners, outlining some of these things that you mentioned, but we've got to come up with what those things are before that we could put together any kind of letter or even mention that those sorts of things are available. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things, I was involved in a project in the last city I lived in, very similar to this, where we identified a whole bunch of different historic homes in a portion of the city, and then did provide plaques that gave little histories on these homes. And we never had a brochure like this, but kind of a walking tour that you could take and just read the plaques. And it was kind of fun, almost a sense of discovery to go along and say, oh, let's see what this house has, and let's see what this house has, and let's see what this house has. So I think there's a number of things we can do. And I agree with you that we need to get buy-in from the property owners. And especially, if we want them to do anything, or in some cases, if we want them to do nothing, we need to get their buy-in.
Any comments?
No.
So yeah, I think for the foreseeable future, let's just keep this item on the agenda as old business so we can continue to talk about it and come up with some stuff. If commissioners would like to look at some of these properties, go through this list that was handed out, so we don't duplicate efforts, email the commission, email Cassandra, say, okay, I'm going to take a look at these properties on North Main or wherever, so that we're not duplicating. But let's get started trying to look at some of these homes, properties, see what's there, see if they are something we want to talk about. And let's, I think to begin with, let's look at the stuff that I'm going to call Old Town to begin with. And then we'll reach out and go from there. Any other comments on our landmark program? Ms. Schiffler, do you have anything else?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, so I did give you that list, but I actually didn't hand it out to everyone. I will send that out by email so that
Oh,
everyone has
thank
the
you.
list.
You gave it to me. I thought you gave it to
Yeah, no, sorry.
Okay, landmarking program. Eggers Farmstead Development. Mr. Neri, do you have an agreement yet?
No, sir, we don't. But I have had contact with the library board, or library foundation, and they were interested, and Erin Turner, who's the head of that, was going to get back with me this week, has not. So I was going to plan on reach out to her tomorrow, since she said she'd get back before the end of the week. So I haven't yet, but we're still working on it.
Okay. What if we find someone that's interested in rebuilding them? I was happened to go down to Victory Gardens down on Meridian and Victory Road the other day, talking to the owners of that, and told them what we had, just kind of discussion. They said, oh, that could be kind of cool. If we find someone that would like to receive them, and I'm trying to think back, is the developer going to disassemble the buildings? And then from there, it's up to the city to either store it or take it to wherever?
Correct.
Okay. So, all right. If I hear anything else out, and Ms. Schiffler, I forgot to email you on that. I apologize for that. So any further discussions I'll have, I'll make sure you're copied on
That'd be great.
what I talk about. The silos from Eggers, if I find someone that's interested in possibly taking them for reconstruction. So like I said, it was just we were there having dinner. I talked to them and I forgot to email you that I did that. So I apologize for that. So. SHPO grant.
So grant contracts all been executed. I did hand out the proposal from Sherry. So if you all can take a look at that, and then at the next meeting can recommend that to move forward, or if you have questions, that's the proposal for the next historic preservation plan. I did notice this proposal doesn't include, it puts a lot of the maps and things on the city and city staff. So I do need to check with planning that they're able to commit to doing that, and also doesn't include any graphic design work. So that could potentially be done at a later date, or, so there's a bit more staff resources needed than I think I initially thought. there.
Okay. Um, yeah, let's reread this and go through this. Yeah, we're probably gonna need some graphics, on our plan. So as we read this and city council reads this, they know exactly what we're talking about, where we're talking about, and what's all involved. So yeah, if look, I think at this point, look at our old preservation plan, see what's in that, see what kind of graphics you would like to take over into the new one. So graphics, charts, anything like that, that we can update, move over to this plan, bring it up to in our October meeting so that we can pass it on to Sherry.
Cassandra, you mentioned that this proposal put some burden on city employees. Can you describe just a little bit more what those is?
So any mapping or charts would be on the city to produce. So it would probably take city maybe working with SHPO or maybe someone in GIS to help with any maps that might be needed. It's also on the city to organize and promote like public outreach meeting that's in there. So they would like run the meeting and the survey, but any of that outreach is kind of on the city. And then the graphic design is a big, but graphic design can be as little and basic or as much. It just,
Right. It could be
yeah.
very, very simple or very involved. Right?
Mhm.
Any other discussions, questions regarding historic preservation plan? Hearing none. Future meeting topics, I think we've got them written down as what we want to talk about as far as walking tours, and the landmarking memo. Of course, Eggers Farmstead, if we hear anything new, and historic preservation plan. Ms. Schiffler, you're headed up north next week for,
I am. I'm going to the American Planning Association conference. So I'll give an update on how that went.
okay. And then the end of next month, I'm headed to Pass Forward. So November, I'll have a report on what I did in New Orleans. With that, our next meeting is going to be Thursday, October 24th, here in the council chambers. So that's it. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second that.
Motion by Commissioner Giddings, second by Commissioner Freeze for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. We are done. Thank